Welcome to the Profit Dare. I am Tim Kiser. On this channel, we help people win at wealth without losing their souls. It is my firm belief that winning at wealth is inevitable for anyone who patiently and persistently practices about a dozen proven financial habits or develops those habits in their lives. So if this is your first time joining me, thank you so much. If you've been before, thanks for coming back. And if you're a subscriber, we were just getting started. Thank you for being on the ground floor, baby. So today we're going to talk about a article I wrote recently, and it's the title of the article is 10 Lies That Keep Christians Broke. Now I'm going to not go through all 10 today because we're on a time crunch for the channel. I don't want to spend a ton of time with it, and I'll hit a few of these and we'll go over them together, right? So the first one I want to talk about is investing is just like gambling. And I first heard that statement at church one time. A pastor was talking, and it was one of the times because, there is volatility in the market at all times, especially right now. When this video is recorded, the weekend, Friday, the Dow dropped like 1,000 points, which is pretty good change in one day. There's volatility. And so this day the pastor was talking about, I'm glad I don't have any of my money invested in the stock market. I'm glad that I'm not gambling like that. I'm glad my money is in the kingdom and in whatever, right? So, but basically the whole thing is ignorance. The whole statement was ignorant, and it really just kind of bothers me, right? Now I'm all for giving. I'm all for treasures in heaven. I'm all for that, but I'm also all for rightfully dividing the word. And investing in the market in Wall Street, whatever it's be S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell 1000, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, any of that stuff, there's a track record of success there. And it's not like gambling. For a long time in one of my jobs, I was in Vegas 6 times a year. So every couple months I'd be in Vegas. And, sometimes I'd be at a trade show where you had to stay at a certain hotel where the trade show was. And only a few hotels actually do not have gambling. And I would love to stay at those when I could, the Trump. But people are like, I get it, the Trump Hotel, they don't smoke there, no gambling, it's super nice. But like the other ones, there's like a casino just to get to your room. And you can go in there at 1 o'clock in the morning, your flight came in late, and there's people at tables tossing, $100 on red or whatever, going to the sports book. That's gambling. You don't really know. You can't control the outcome. But there's a track record of success in the stock market. Is it 30%? No, it's not 30%, but it's close to 12 on the average every year, compounded average every year. So investing is just like gambling, is a lie that people tell in the church, and it keeps Christians broke. So the same person I heard say that now is many years later is in a situation where he has to continue to work beyond his fatigue level, put it that way, because he has nothing invested. And so he's not, it's not like all of a sudden faith is paying the bills. I don't want to come across as heretical here. Please don't take this the wrong way. But people say that, I'm going to trust God. Yeah, maybe God was telling you to be a better steward of your resources. All right, there's one. How about this one? That all debt should be paid before investing. All debt should be paid before investing. Now, there's a very popular person on a financial, talking head that talks about that you should be out of debt before you start investing. Now, this was me. I bought this whole thing hook, line, and sinker at one time. And so we didn't get started in the market. My wife and I didn't get started in the market until later in life. And so the result of that was we had to put more in to catch up to where we should have been. But if I would have started putting in when I was in, still a little bit when I was in debt, because almost every employer, not all, almost every employer will match something. So I had an employer who was matching dollar for dollar up to the first 3% of donation or contributions. And eventually I just said, I may not ever get out of debt. I just can't see myself getting out of debt. And so we started putting in 1%, and then we went to 2%, and we went 3%, and it was a full match. And then that started compounding. So we did it differently. I mean, I was in the program and felt, the shame and the guilt, and people looking over your shoulder, and it's like my way or the highway. But I'm telling you, if you wait till you're totally out of debt to get started in investing in your future, you may never ever start, because you may never ever get out of debt. So you can do two things at once. I have confidence in you. Hopefully you do too. Can you walk and chew gum at the same time? Probably. You probably can pay off debt and invest more. Being out of debt does not necessarily guarantee you're going to be rich, because a person can be out of debt and still spend all their money, right? Just waste it. Here's one controversial, because you got to say something controversial, because if you don't say anything controversial, no one cares. Jesus endorsed the paying of taxes. That's a lie that keeps people broke. And you're like, well, wait, hold on here, cowboy. There's the verse, I think it's Mark 12 verses 13 through 17, where the Pharisee, the teachers of the law, they want to catch Jesus in a trick, and it's like, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar? He's like, bring me one of those coins, which is pretty important because it means he didn't have one. He was not using the system at all. He's like, bring me one of the coins whose image is on it. He's like throwing out like harsh firebrands, by idolatry, whose image is on it. And they're like, and he tells them, give to Caesar's what is Caesar and God's what is God's. Now, they walked away dumbfounded. They're like, what in the world did he just say? He just answered that question so well. We have no idea what he said. We should be mad, but we can't be mad. And I've heard preachers say, well, that means that you got to pay your taxes and you got to tithe. That's not what it says. Not even close to what it says. I truly believe that Jesus is like, yeah, we're not part of this system. We are not obligated to pay taxes like as a spiritual, as a spiritual proof of spirituality. It's not patriotic either. I'm telling you right now, if you don't try to minimize your tax bill as much as possible without going to jail. I mean, obviously nothing illegal, nothing nefarious, nothing against any rules or regulations. But there's plenty of rules and regulations that make paying taxes a lot less painful. And the whole idea behind people saying it's spiritual and it's patriotic is ridiculous. So if you're contributing to a 401k that's like has a mutual fund component to it, you're already getting a tax break. If you are doing a regular IRA, you're getting a tax break. If you're getting a Roth IRA, you're getting a tax break on the back end. If you contribute to an HSA, you're reducing your taxes. If you contribute to an FSA, you're getting a tax break. If you take public transportation, when I lived in Illinois, I took the train to work every day. I paid for parking, and I had that run through like a company, and I got a tax break from it. So all these things you should do and think about it. If you have childcare and you can pay with pre-tax dollars, do it. It reduces your tax liability. Don't just blindly pay your taxes. I'm telling you right now, the government is up to a lot of no good, and they're extracting money from your pocket and buying things that you would never do on your own, right? So Jesus did not endorse the paying of taxes. There's a great article from the Mises Institute on this, and if you go to my article, which is just Google, what's it called again? 10 money lies that keep Christians broke on the Profit Dare website. I have a link to the Mises Institute article, which is fantastic, and it will really shake your thinking nicely. Sacrificial giving is normal. That's a lie that keeps Christians broke. So I went to church for a while. It's like we were always taking special offerings. At this church, it was like one of those storehouse tithing churches where you're supposed to give 10% of everything, and anything above and beyond that was considered an offering. And but we still get always taking special offerings, and it's like we never could think through that copy machines break down and air conditioning systems break down. It's kind of like sacrificial giving. And they're constantly using that scripture in Luke 21, the widow's mites, as like a proof text for this. And Jesus never really praised the lady for giving sacrificially. He basically was just saying she gave sacrificially. He was just like laying out what happened. And a lot of people who preach or teach this way will say you can't outgive God. I'm not sure that's I can't remember if that's one of my ones or not. You can't outgive God. But apparently this lady had something different going on because she was giving a lot and she was still poor. So let's kind of like circle that square, right? So, and then I love the way that Luke 21 starts. If you keep reading from chapter 20, He is basically putting the screws to the scribes, the Pharisees, and the teachers of the law for abusing people economically. Yeah. So are there times to give sacrificially? Absolutely. Paul talked about this with the church in Macedonia in 2 Corinthians, and they gave sacrificially. And there is the time and a place to give sacrificially. Right now, I'm affiliated with a group of people who are giving to the church in Ukraine, not the government, but a church, or the churches in Ukraine, to feed people because they can't get food. And so there's a time of sacrificial, I can't say that word, sacrificial giving, that there's opportunities, and those happen, but those are the exception, not the norm. Let's see, what's the last one I'm talking about? Let's see, number 10. Charity begins at 10%. Let's just go ahead and stir the pot a little bit here. So there's a lot of people who say that the giving doesn't start until you're at 10%, and there's really not any biblical evidence to support that. Now, I take a lot of heat from this one, and I would never, ever discourage anyone from giving to their church or charitable organizations ever. Never. I would never say you can't afford to do that. That's not my business. That's their business. But I do have a problem with incorrect exegesis of the book. And we often have people who are like, well, here's what the thing we hear. The tithe was before the law. It was Abraham. Yeah, but Abraham was at war. He killed a bunch of people, took all their stuff, gave 10% of that to Melchizedek, and gave 90% to the rest of the kings. So if you want to follow Abraham's example, the next time you go to war personally and you kill people and take their stuff, and you find some king, the priest that's representative of Jesus walking, that shows up out of nowhere, feel free to give him 10%. And then before you give it all, and before you go home, give the other 90 away to somebody else too, and don't keep any of it if you want to do that. Or they'll say, well, Jacob tithed. No, the Bible doesn't say Jacob tithed. Jacob said he would say, if you do this for me, I'll give you 10%. Jacob was playing, let's make a deal. Let's stop with this stuff. And we'll okay, I got you, brother. Malachi 3, it says, bring thee all the tithe into the storehouse. Yeah, it does. And the tithe that they were talking about there is the 10% of the 10% that the priests were supposed to give. So if you want to give 10% and call it a tithe, which one are you giving? Are you giving the Levitical tithe? Are you giving the poor tithe? Or are you giving the festival tithe? Because there's 3 tithes. One was 10% a year, the other was 10% a year, and one was 10% every 3 years. So if the math right is about 23.33%, why do we pick just 10? Because we know people would go crazy if you said to give 23.33% every year. Let's just be honest. Let's go back to what Paul said, that you should give give what you have purpose in your heart. God loves a cheerful giver. He doesn't give out of compulsion or out of reluctance. Deuteronomy or Exodus? Moses is like, God's like, take up an offering for all who are willing. There was a temple tax, but we don't have a temple tax, but that actually paid for the stuff. So giving starts at 1 cent. It does, and we should be charitable. We should give radically. We should practice radical generosity. But that whole giving thing is between God and the person. You can't pay back God. And he's like, well, you can't outgive God, and you shouldn't try, because if you try, then you think you can buy salvation. This crazy stuff, right? All I'm saying is we should be a little better researchers of the book, and do what it says, and not just make stuff up and do church by folklore. So we're close to 15 minutes already. So that's just a couple of them that I have in there. There's plenty more in there. I would love for you to go check them out on the website. And let's continue a conversation another day with believing that we can win at wealth without losing our souls. And thank you for joining me today. And may God's blessing be upon you. May it overtake you. May he give you wisdom on how to operate on the job and to get pay raises, and how much to give, and give you opportunities to give radically, and teach you how to get out of debt creatively. There's so much stuff with the good book and money, right? So blessings to you, blessings to your family. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon with a new video.